Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to quickly show you how to animate things in Blender. We're going to look at physics, motion paths, and standard movements in parenting relationships. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to start by animating this simple cube. And if your viewport looks like this and you want to get up the timeline, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the very bottom corner here, and you can see my crosshair actually turns, or my mouse turns into a crosshair. And I'm just going to click and hold and then drag up. And that just kind of creates a new window. And frankly, you can do this kind of wherever, as many times as you want. And while we're creating just a viewport there, we can just click here, and then we can click this button here, and go to timeline. And now we have up the animation timeline, and this is what we're going to work with today. So to animate, it's really easy. All we're going to do is I've just pressed N to open this up, but that's just this button here. And then here's all the information with the location, rotation, scale, etc., etc. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to press I. I'll press I on that, and I'll also press I on, yeah, let's just start with that for now, actually. So when I pressed I, you can now see that there's these keyframes that have appeared, and that's essentially it. Now maybe I'll go 100 frames, and remember, frames, there's typically 24 frames per second or 29 frames per second, depending on what your sequence might be in any video editing program, but 24 is generally what I work with. And so maybe now I've moved it 100 frames, maybe I'll be a bit more exact, so I can do like 24, maybe I want this to be 5 seconds, so I can do 24 times, well, 4 seconds, why not? So it takes us to 96, and that was really nice because I just did 24 times 4, and it calculated it for me. And now I'm just going to move this, I'll move it along the x-axis, and then I'll press I. And then if we go back, we can press, I can press shift space, it might just be space for you. And there you have it. So that's our first animation. And maybe we now want to have it come back to its original spot. So maybe what I'll do is I'm going to select the original ones, and then we'll do 24 times 6, let's say. Oops. Copy, paste. You know what? This actually has to, let's just do this. Let's give it a go. So now by pasting those in, it should go there, and it should go back. And you can see it was a little bit faster because the space in between these actually isn't the same. What I actually want is 24 times 8, right? And then you can see here, these are now stationary because I've just copied it, but I'm going to just delete it, and we can do it one more time. And I think you get the idea. Now, what you might notice here is that it actually slows down near the end, and that might not be something you want. And the reason why is because there's different ways that you can ask for the animation to play. So to look at that, we can press T. When we're hovering over the keyframe, you can press T. And now there's all these different ways that'll show how time is expressed through the timeline here. So I'm going to select them all. When I select them all, they'll turn yellow. I'm going to press T, and linear just means that time is linear, which is generally how we experience it in many ways. But it doesn't account for any acceleration, and you'll see that now. So it goes there, and it bounces back, just like that. If I press T1 back to Bezier, you can see that slow start that allows it to accelerate. Okay, so we did that. Now what we're going to try to do is we're actually going to parent this camera. So let's say we want this camera to follow this object. Well, what we can do is we'll just select the camera, then select the object, and then we'll press Control P, and it's called parenting. And we're going to send the parent to the object. And now what this does is this is going to copy all of the transformations that this has. So if we press play, you can see how it's transforming. We can even go into the camera view, and we can see it move. There it is. And we can even, now we'll try to do something with the rotation at the same time. So we'll go to here, and we'll do 180. Let's see what happens. And you can just click this right here to go to the next keyframe. and then 0. Okay, so let's see what happens. This thing's probably going to rotate. Yeah, so now both of them are rotating 180 degrees. And so parenting is really interesting, and it probably deserves its own video, but just really quickly, that's how you do it. You can do it with multiple objects at once. So now if you want both of them, you can see everything, and you can see how interesting and complicated this could get in a very short period of time. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is if we wanted to follow along a path. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to create a curve, for instance, which could be our path. So here's a circle. I'm just going to scale it up. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select our cube, and then I'm going to select our path. And I'm going to press Control P, and then it says follow path. I'm going to do that. If I press spacebar now, what you might notice is the relationship between this cube here and this circle is fixed to the middle. And that's because the origin of the circle and the origin of the cube are in the same spot. So that means if I were to move the origin, or if the cube and the origin of the cube to, for let's say, the edge here, you can now see how that might work. And so one other thing to note is that if you want to extend this, the duration of this, because right now this animation is just 100 frames, you go here to your object data properties, and you change your evaluation time. So let's say if you want 24 times 8, so there we go. That's it again. I think we can press, oh no, we don't have to press anything. We can just wait. And so let's just see. Oops. Did I do that in evaluation time? Sorry, frames 24 times 8. There we go. So now you'll see it's covering the same distance, but in a slower period of time. So therefore, it is slower. Okay, and so for the last thing to show you, I'm not going to go too in-depth here, but what I will just show you that exists is some physics, animating some physics in Blender. So I've just created a really simple scene with the ground, and this cube is floating in the air right now. I'm going to go to modifiers, or I can go to physics here. I can go to the physics property, and I'm going to create a rigid body. And the type for the cube here is going to be active. And then for here, I'm going to create a rigid body, and the type here is going to be passive. And right away, if I press spacebar, there we go. And that's really it. I mean, we can just duplicate this now as much as we want. We can start duplicating it this way. And then if I press space, there you have it. Anyway, I hope you guys found that video helpful, and if you want to see more videos about animation or more videos about Blender, let me know and I'd be happy to do so. Take care.